For today's video, I want to tell you all about the story behind the cover image for my latest zine in my Zine a Month project, Serial Music, and about how it taught me to stop worrying and love photo cliches. A few friends and I have a tradition of going camping every Chuseok. A couple of years ago, we all donned our colors, had a healthy breakfast, and piled into my little van, headed northeast towards a kind of mountainous lake district outside of Seoul. That's the deal for the camping missions. There's gotta be mountains or water. Korea is not the easiest place to go wild camping. It's quite a built-up country, and it's quite difficult to find a place where no one's looking. We checked out a couple different potential camping spots, but everywhere we went to ended up being a bust. And with the sun getting a bit lower on the horizon, we were running out of options. Our last chance was a place that we'd found years ago on one of our first camping trips. And it's a place that we call Mars. We found our way back to the long dirt road that leads to Mars just as night was setting in. And we followed that road all the way down to the water's edge in the dark. Turned out there was a guy who had built something I would best describe as a kind of shanty temple right down by the water's edge. He told us he was a monk, and even though we had our misgivings, we decided to ask him if it was all right to stay the night. He kind of sucked in his paunch and thought about it a little bit, and eventually nodded and said,
"Good day."
The next morning was just kind of this perfect morning. We woke up at dawn, went for a swim in the lake, made some coffee, and swapped stories with the monk. At some point, I got a moment to step back from everyone, and I just had this kind of sense of peace and fulfillment, like nothing needed to be any different. I took a lot of photos that described the scene and the story that morning. But there was really only one photo that captured how I was feeling. This photo of a hand holding flowers. It's not supposed to be anything more than simple and pretty, some good color and some good light. The thing is, it's a photo of a subject that I think is kind of cliche, and one that I actually spent quite a few years trying to avoid. A lot of photo cliches have this kind of quality of simplicity and attractiveness, but familiarity to the point of losing all value. I think calling a photo cliche is like calling it boring, like a comfortable falling in line with the status quo of photography. Or worse, it's like calling it dishonest, trying to pass off imagery that's already in the cultural ether as though it's your own. But I think in my case, I was probably avoiding it to the extent that it was limiting my own curiosity and my own photography. When I started Serial Music, I made a conscious decision to try and be more open-minded about what I was shooting. This meant sometimes shooting images that were a bit more obvious, and sometimes knowingly shooting cliches. But as soon as I allowed myself to shoot these kinds of photos, I found myself trying to transform them and to see if I could figure out a way to make them feel special again. With time, the photos came to feel a bit more personalized, more within my particular style, and ultimately a part of a collection of imagery that kind of feels like it belongs to me. I learned to love the attractiveness of cliches, but to also only ever let that be the starting point for making images that hopefully feel fresh and interesting and like a part of my particular perspective. As for the monk, the second he took a shot of whiskey at like 9 in the morning and told us he was an old boxing pro, we were all pretty sure he wasn't a monk and hustled out of there. I've got a link below to my newsletter on Substack. If that's your thing, I send out my newsletter every Sunday and always focus on writing something that's hopefully helpful for photographers trying to grow their practice, or that focuses on the storytelling aspect of photography. And of course, Serial Music Volume 8 is out now, flowers on the cover and all. There's a link to that below as well. Thank you as always for watching, and have a good one.